Hi guys, welcome back. So this is the last lecture in this course. So we will use this one to finish this course, and we will talk about the very last piece of this puzzle. That is the basal ganglia and the cortical integration. So let me share the screen. Share the screen. Okay, let me see here. Okay, share. And let me make sure that it's recording. Yes, it's recording. All right. So before we jump into this basal ganglia and cortical integration, let's give it another look about these circuits that we already mentioned about. This is the motor system, motor neural system that include different portion. And let's see where we are in this circuit, in this puzzle. We are talking about the very last piece of the puzzle. So where are we right now? So we begin by talking about this lower motor neuron. There are two types of the lower motor neuron, the alpha and the gamma. And then we talk about how this motor neuron not just influence the muscle, but receive signal from the sensory. So the very basic one is called the stretch reflex. Sensory muscle spindle trigger alpha motor neuron directly. A stretch cause a reflex, contract the extrafusal muscle fiber. So we talk about that. And that gives us idea that in the spinal cord, there are local circuits. There are different reflexes. We only use one as an example, but there are a lot of circuits. An example I commonly talk about is the locomotion. That is circuits. It's very amazing that we can walk without thinking. So when you walk, you don't need to use your brain because they do it by itself. And all these are regulated by the supraspinal tract, including several from the brainstem, rubral, reticular, vestibular spinal tracts. And they affect different aspects of the motor control. We also, when we talk about these supraspinal tracts, we know that they heavily influenced by the cerebellum. So right here, cerebellum. So we then talk about the cerebellum. And then this one, we will also talk about the vestibular. So we talk about the vestibular cerebellum and how there are three divisions in the cerebellum, and the three divisions go with three deep nuclei. And this deep nuclei basically control the either send signal back to the brain or send signal to control the those three supraspinal tracts uh, initiated from the brainstem. So that's that. And so we have that. Now, what missing here, what we have not talked about is this portion. So this is the important circuits right here. And so that is including cerebral cortex, basal ganglia, thalamus. So this is a loop. And this loop is important. So basically that what this loop means is that and everything we do, everything we say, we have a second thought, all right? So that literally is a second thought circuit. So basically, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to say, you don't do it immediately. You send to the basal ganglia, and then basal ganglia will channel it, will decide whether that's good time to do it, whether that's appropriate to do it, and then it will tell your brain say, okay, do it, or nah, don't do it. So that is that circuit. So with this in mind, you can know that basal ganglia, the one we are going to talk about, receive signal from the cerebral cortex only. Okay, it's not like everything else. They receive signal from the spinal cord, from the brainstem, from the vestibular, from the sensory. Uh, basal ganglia is one only intact signal from the cerebral cortex right here. So you can see that cerebral cortex come here, or you can see come here. They go in here, and so that's the input. What's the output? The output is back to the thalamus, but thalamus is just a hub. They going back to the cerebral cortex. So that is that loop. Very simple, but very important. And this loop, the major function is to channel your thoughts before your action, right? So anything behavior, movement related disorder diseases are all due to these circuits. And basically that is the function of the basal ganglia. All right, so that's that. So from here, one thing you need to know, one thing very important is that basal ganglia, this region, receives signal from where? Cerebral cortex, right? Anything cerebral cortex, your thoughts, your sensory, everything up to here will, before you have any movement idea, basal ganglia is one to process it before you move it, all right? So input is from the cerebral cortex. What's the output? The output is back to the cerebral cortex. So input and output is all in base. It's all it's basically cerebral cortex and the basal ganglia and cerebral cortex. So that's this loop. All right, having that in mind, let's look into the basal ganglia. So what's the basal ganglia? Here is the location of the basal ganglia. So basically, we see that this middle portion is the thalamus. This is the hub that we know that is the center of the brain right here. And then basal ganglia, we have two hemisphere of the basal ganglia on the two hemisphere in the two hemisphere. Basal ganglia basically, when you look at it, it has very unique shape. So it has this C shape. This C shape is the caudate. So that start with C. So that's a caudate. So this caudate nucleus include the caudate body and the tail. The tail connect with another nucleus. This nucleus is called the amygdala. This amygdala, even though it's very near, location-wise, near the basal ganglia, this amygdala is not part of the basal ganglia because basal ganglia has its circuits, and this circuit is about the movement, is a motor control. However, amygdala is not. Even though the major function of the amygdala is about the emotion, about fear, emotion and the memory about the fear. And this is a learning process. This is part of the reward system. So whenever you have the experience of the fear or you learn about the cue about the threat, and you learn that because you need to, even though you had that experience, you're very fortunate that you didn't die, right? You didn't end your life at that moment. So you learn that next time you will avoid that. So it's a learning, it's a fear learning, and that is this amygdala plays a role there. So this amygdala is important to in a way that affects your behavior, but not directly influence the movement. So that's that. So what's the basal ganglia? So basal ganglia basically including these caudates. Now we have this shape. This shape is called a lentiform nucleus. This lentiform nucleus include this putamen, a little bit putamen here, and the globus pallidus. So that basically is the basal ganglia, the major portion of the basal ganglia. You may also hear people call it striatum. Striatum. Striatum include the caudate and the putamen. So that's that. So if we do a transaction view through this one here, we can very good to present everything in a two-dimensional space. So that's this one here. And from here, you can see that here we have the caudate, that's a C shape, body, tail, and the putamen right here. This is a green one, this putamen. This caudate putamen together is called the striatum. This striatum is not connected because here we have a white matter go through it. A fiber bundle go through it. This fiber bundle go through it is called the internal capsule. Internal capsule. Internal capsule. Internal capsule right here. Internal capsule. And down here is called the cerebropeduncle. But this portion is the internal capsule. All right. And then we do this striatum. This portion is the lentiform nucleus. So this lentiform nucleus, including the putamen and the globus pallidus. Globus pallidus has two parts. One is called the internal segment right here, internal segment, and we also have the external. This brown region is the external segment. So this is globus pallidus. So that's a major region. The Latin form, this striatum, including caudates, putamen. Latin form, including the globus pallidus and basal, putamen and the globus pallidus. So that's that. What else do we have? We also have the so this is striatum, globus, caudate, and the putamen, and the globus pallidus right here, adjacent to the putamen. We also have the subthalamic nucleus. So it's right here in this thalamus. Underneath this one here, we have subthalamic nucleus. We also have the substantia nigra right here. So right here, substantia nigra, two here, very low, a little bit lower than everyone else. And so that's it. Substantia nigra has two parts. One is called pars compacta. The other one is called pars reticulata. It doesn't show the two parts here, but we do have a picture to show you that. So here is the substantia nigra. This region includes of substantia nigra two parts. These blue dots is the pars compacta. They release the uh, dopamine. This yellow triangle region is the pars reticulata. This one release GABA. When pars compacta release dopamine, they send axon to the striatum. So the dopamine will act on the neural receptor in the striatum. What's the striatum? Two area, right? Caudates and the putamen. So there are two type of the dopamine receptor in the striatum, and including D1 and the D2. Pars reticulata release the neurotransmitter GABA synapse with the thalamus. This one will provide an inhibitory signal to the thalamus and back to the cortex. So this signal through the pars reticulata will provide an inhibitory effect to the signal pathway. So that's the substantia nigra right here, substantia nigra, two region, pars compacta and the pars reticulata. So that's the easy question to ask, that what's the neurotransmitter released from the pars compacta of the substantia nigra? That's dopamine. This one is also very has high clinical relevance because an important disease called Parkinson disease is the degeneration of neuron in this area, the pars compacta of the substantia nigra. And then we will have a reduced amount of dopamine. And where is dopamine acts on? Dopamine acts on the striatum right here. And there are two type of receptor, D1 and D2. So we will have low dopamine in Parkinson disease to act on D1 and D2 in the striatum. And the patient will have the movement disorder. They typically have difficulty to initiate a movement. So as we mentioned before, The basal ganglia is a function to channel through the thoughts you have in the cortex. So for us, we feel we take it for granted that we can move very freely. Like you want to think of something, you want to say something, you can do it. You see people, you react, you have action, and you do it. uh, all this is very because it's all because we have very smooth circuits. However, lack of the dopamine will make this process become impaired. We have the thoughts sent through the basal ganglia, lack of the dopamine, then these pathways will be inhibited. They will not send a good, smooth signal back to the cortex. So movement will will be delayed, will be impaired. So that's that. So that's the disease of the Parkinson disease. So that's the several nuclei. Excuse me. That's the several nuclei in the basal ganglia. So just showing you that the one we already mentioned about. Uh, when people talk about the basal ganglia, you may also hear about the region called striatum. What's the striatum? Striatum including the caudate and the putamen. So this gray area is the striatum, caudate and the putamen, right? And what else? People also may talk about this lentiform lentiform nucleus. This lentiform nucleus is right here, lentiform nucleus that include the um, the uh, the the uh, the putamen and globus pallidus. So that's that lentiform nucleus right here, caudate nucleus. Yeah, so that's an easy area that we can have a quick question that what's part of the striatum, what's part of the lentiform nucleus, right? So that's that. What else? We also mentioned about the internal capsule going through, so the fiber, the nerve fiber, the white matter tracks pass through caudate and the putamen is the internal capsule right here. So what's the internal capsule? Internal capsule basically is a nerve bundle of the cortical spinal tracts. So you can see it from the motor cortex. This motor cortex can directly act on the lower motor neuron. Part of them can directly act on lower motor neuron. They will go through bundle form this internal capsule and pass through the caudates and the putamen and enter into the spinal cord. So that's this one, internal capsule. And then we also mentioned earlier, we mentioned about these two regions in the substantial nigra, just showing the picture, give you a visual understanding about these two parts. That's the pars compta release the dopamine. Their neuron innervate into the striatum to release dopamine. So there will be D1, D2. We also have pars reticulata. This one release GABA, and this one basically is sent to the thalamus, and then that inhibit the signal in the thalamus. So that's that. So this is also easy area to have quiz question that what's the neurotransmitter from the pars compta or from the pars reticulata of the substantia nigra. All right. So we get the idea that there are different kind of nuclei. There are different kind of the neurotransmitter. So what are these neurotransmitter in the entire basal ganglia? So basically, it's not that complicated. Basically, the neurotransmitter inside of this basal ganglia are all GABA. There are two exceptions, but except these two, they are all GABA. So GABA is the major one. Striaton, including the caudate, including the putamen, globus pallidus, substantia nigra, pars reticulata, all release GABA. Right, so this is an inhibitory area that everyone release inhibitory, but you know that inhibitory to inhibitory become excitatory. So it's really depending on how we put two together. I'll say. So GABA is the major neurotransmitter in the basal ganglia. We also have one nucleus release glutamate. So that's the only one excitatory neurons nucleus. That's the subthalamic nucleus. That's the one release glutamate. The substantia nigra is a unique one. They release substantia nigra, pars compta release dopamine, and they innervate into the striaton. This dopamine will act on D1 and D2. When they release, dopamine will diffuse around. They act on two type of receptor. One is excitatory, that's D1 receptor. The other one is inhibitory, that's D2 receptor. So that's that. All right, so now we have all this background about this basal ganglia. And then the next question is, okay, I know that the different neurotransmitter, different location, and the different groups. Now, what exactly this circuit is formed? What's exactly the pathway is formed in the basal ganglia? So you have that question. We all have that question, and so a lot of research going on to figure out because this is in the brain very complicated area. So trying to tease out these different findings and kind of summarize what is what's the concept or the finding that we can learn from it, right? So based on all these findings, what we can find is that we can find that basal ganglia basically has two pathway. Very thankful, right? It's not a very complicated circuit. It basically serves two major pathway. These two major pathway, including we call it a direct pathway, and the other one is called the indirect pathway. So just don't get fooled by direct means that very direct. Indirect is that very indirect, right? So the way to think about it is that the direct pathway is the name to describe this pathway let the signal pass through. So you need to know that the signal is from the cortex to the basal ganglia back to the cortex. And the direct pathway basically give a green light. So you go to the cross section and you see it, the green light. You basically don't see anything, right? You just go through. So that doesn't affect you. So that's a direct pathway. Direct pathway that goes through it, and this one give you a green light, and you go through. So that thought, that idea, when it's sent to the basal ganglia, you got an approval like you. So the cortex do it. So that's called the direct pathway. The indirect pathway means that maybe not now, it's a red line that, well, you hold it, you cannot do it. That is the indirect pathway, meaning that not a direct movement, you can do it, but maybe sometime later, all right? So that's the indirect pathway. So the cortex will send signal to the basal ganglia, and you got that's the indirect pathway. So that is the essentially an inhibitory pathway. So that's that. So what's this direct and indirect pathway? So we know all these different components, and these different components will be assembled, will be used to assemble a direct pathway and indirect pathway. So the direct pathway, indirect pathway has something in common. What's in common? The input outputs are the same in common because it's all received signal from the cortex, and they all send out signal to the thalamus back to the cortex. So that part is the similar. Let's look at the direct pathway first. So the direct pathway including one, two, three components. These two are not uh, one after the other. These two basically is either or. So we have the signal sent to the striatum. So always striatum receive the signal. Striatum receive signal, then send to the globus pallidus internal slash substantia nigra uh, substantia reticular pars reticulata. And these either one of these will send an GABA to the thalamus. So that's the pathway. If we using a block diagram, like I show you here, so this is the direct pathway. The answer is excitatory, all right? So it's a direct, it's not, it's in the end, it's green light. So the pathway is like this one here, cortex sent to the striatum, then striatum go either the globus pallidus internal segment or to the substantia nigra pars reticulata, then send signal to the thalamus, to the cortex. Now you have a negative inhibitory to an inhibitory neuron. The end will be not inverted because negative to negative equal positive. So this one become a positive. And to go through this pathway basically give you a green light, and you get that excitatory will be imposed to the thalamus, become an excitatory cortex. Or this one, negative, negative, again, is a positive. So this green light will go in here, go directly pass through it to the thalamus and go to the brain. So that's this pathway. So striatum, it could be the caudate or putamen sent to the globus pallidus internal segment or pars reticulata in the substantia nigra, and then to the thalamus back to the cortex. So that's the direct pathway. Yeah, and all this release GABA. So this I put it red because they basically are inhibitory nucleus. So that's that. So that's the direct pathway. All right. And all right, so that is the direct pathway. Now, what is the indirect pathway? The indirect pathway are something in common with the direct pathway. They all enter into the striatum, and then they will receive signal from the cortex. Their output is also from the globus pallidus internal segment or substantia nigra pars reticulata. And this output will send to the thalamus. Then this thalamus will send back to the cortex. So the input, output, basically the same. But the only difference is that between this input and output, there are two new components in it. These two new components are globus pallidus external segment and the subthalamic nucleus. So that's these two. And these two new components will reverse the effects, will make this opposite effects from the direct pathway, because now we have this globus pallidus external, which is an inhibitory, release the GABA, and the subthalamic nucleus, this one release glutamate, in excite this globus pallidus internal or the substantia nigra reticulata, pars reticulata. These two with this extra negative will make the entire circuit become negative, because now we have the negative, negative, negative is a negative, right? So that will inhibit this signal transduction. And if we look into the block diagram, so this one is the direct pathway that we mentioned already. This one is an indirect pathway. The indirect pathway has this new. This one is a basal ganglia, input, output, input received by striatum, output is provided by the globus pallidus internal or substantia nigra, pars reticulata. The extra components here, globus pallidus external to the subthalamic nucleus, and so you have the inhibitory to an inhibitory, so that will make it not inhibitory, right? We won't call it like excitatory because we just don't inhibit it. This one is already excitatory, so that excite signal will pass to the excitatory. Excitatory will excite these two inhibitory, and so that will ends up to be an inhibitory on the thalamus. So this one gives the idea that any thoughts, any idea from the cortex, if it pass through this indirect pathway, we basically is like put a latch on our puppy. So our puppy has thought, right? Our puppy see the words they want to run around, and that's very much in our brain. Like kids, right? If they are in the classroom, they will run you around. Like you don't want to stop, right? It's natural, and the training, the growing up, basically resemble the indirect pathway that we learn how to hold our behavior. We don't want to let these thoughts just easily get through. We give it a second thought. We give it thought that maybe this is not appropriate, and so we give it a red light. We put a latch on our puppy so they will learn to behave, right? So that's the indirect pathway. So that's this one. So basal ganglia has two pathway. Direct pathway is an excitatory pathway. They basically has these three components: striatum to the globus pallidus internal, or striatum to the subthalamic, sorry, to the substantia nigra, pars reticulata, back to the thalamus, back to the cortex. The indirect pathway is an inhibition pathway. And so we have not just the striatum and globus pallidus internal slash substantia nigra, pars reticulata. We have these two new components in it. That is the globus pallidus external and subthalamic nucleus. So with these two new components in it, this pathway become an inhibitory pathway. And that will inhibit the thoughts from the cortex back to the cortex. So that will put the latch on the thoughts. So we will not act on that thought. From the textbook, you can see that we can describe this pathway as these two circuits. Uh, this one can be viewed as the direct pathway. You can see that uh, this is the basal ganglia. This part is the basal ganglia. So you can see that the input signal is always in the striatum, into the striatum. Input signal are always from the cortex. So input signal are always in the cortex. And the first nucleus to receive signal is the striatum. It's either the caudate or putamen, caudate or putamen. The direct pathway will be the putamen sent to the globus pallidus internal or the substantia nigra, pars reticulata, right? And then sent to the thalamus, then sent to the brain. Or it could be, this one show you both the substantia nigra. This could be the indirect pathway, the cortical signal sent to the striatum, including caudate and putamen, then sent to the external, to the subthalamic nucleus, then back to the internal, and then internal sent to the thalamus, to the brain. So just by looking at circuit, it's kind of complicated, but and that's what's happening when people start to looking into these circuits. Just by looking at circuit, it's very complicated, but we generally, we typically, come out this uh, uh, kind of agreed by all these researchers that this agreed pathway, these two pathway to describe the feature of this basal ganglia. We can summarize it as this direct pathway and indirect pathway. So that's that. What I like to show you though, even though this circuit is kind of complicated, but it's more real, more like the real world that is complicated. What I want to show you though, this one is that, I want to show you is that you need to know that the signal sent to the basal ganglia, right here, basal ganglia, is not just the motor signal. It includes the motor, premotor, as well as the sensory portion. So somatic sensory, or even a little bit later from the extrastriate cortex, the signal received from the vision, and so that's the, and when they send back to the cortex, they can send back to the frontal. Frontal portion is more like decision making, or directly back to the primary motor to inhibit. So this is more like indirect pathway to inhibit the movement. If it's direct pathway, it typically sends signal back to the frontal. So this is the green light. And so your brain will know that, will be encouraged that to do it. If it's inhibitory, this will directly inhibit the primary cortex not to do it. So you have the thought. And this one is related to our behavior. So basically, what happens is that this signal, including the vision, including the somatic, it could be part of your sensory and the part of your thoughts you are planning to do, and and the basal ganglia will train will be trained that would you do it or would you not do it. So that is the one I want to show, is that the the action receive a lot of sensory signal. This sensory signal sometimes will be viewed as a cue, that you have this cue, then you would do it, or you have this cue, then you would not do it. Okay, so this is to explain why do we have a routine behavior. Why do you build this routine, right? We very easily build routine. Like you go to a new environment, you start to you don't have the routine, but you very easily to build a routine because of the basal ganglia, that the visual cue, the sensory cue will very easily guide you to do something that's become your daily routine. Wake up in the morning, drinking a cup of coffee, walk to the school, and when you go to room, open that computer, and that's related to the right? Addiction. That when you see the cue, it's not that how much you want to say smoke, right? It's just you go to the room, you see the device, then the visual cue will cue you to do that routine behavior. And that's part of the basal ganglia circuits. Another thing I also want to mention, I don't think I mentioned about it, is that when these basal ganglia send signal to the thalamus, they send signal into the ventral anterior lobe and the ventral lateral lobe. So this is the thalamus. And the thalamus is the hub. Everything go back to cortex will send through the thalamus. So that's here. So we talk about a lot of this region already, basically all the region except uh, this auditory signal. We talk about the vision. We talk about the somatic sensory from the skin. And then we also talk about the signal from the cerebellum. When they send to the brain, it will send through the ventrolateral lobe. We also talk about this region, intralaminar nucleus. This one is about the slow pain. So this is the last one, and then I will complete this picture. And so this signal from the basal ganglia will go through the ventrolateral and ventral anterior lobe of the thalamus, then back to the brain. So that's that. Here I show you from the globus pallidus, just an example from the basal ganglia, because from the basal ganglia, the output signal is from the globus pallidus internal slash substantia nigra pars reticulata, right? So this figure just use this as an example that showing you the signal. Otherwise, it will be include a lot here, right? So that basically showing you the signal from the basal ganglia will enter into the ventrolateral and ventral anterior back to the brain cortex, cerebral cortex. So that's that. And with this in mind, this direct pathway and the indirect pathway, we then can use this finding to explain a lot of movement, even though it's the voluntary movement, but to explain why people behave certain way. So this give the idea about can be used to explain that these behavior that even though it's a voluntary behavior, but a lot of time people perform a certain pattern, certain behavior. And why is that? It's because of this direct and indirect pathway. So this one showing you, this is the theory called the action selection. So basically that we have different thoughts in the brain. And this from the brain, these thoughts could be a cue from the sensory, could be the thoughts from the frontal cortex. And then it will go through the basal ganglia. And in the end, we will have one direct pathway, and the other will be inhibit. And basically that all the thoughts, when you have all different thoughts, you will you will not very generate a certain pattern yet. But if you decide one to do, then that will have one experience. And you need to know that the circuit, brain circuit, is that the more you use it, the stronger the signal it is. So if you first do it, you generate the first pattern that, say you go to the room, right? You go to your your room, right? And perhaps this is the first time you go into this room, this is a school dorm or something, right? Dorm room, and you will do one behavior. Then that behavior will form the first circuit, first activity. That activity, because that activity will inhibit other action, you go to a room. The first thing is that, say you you start to drink alcohol, for example, right? That's the first thing you do. You do it. Then you basically inhibit other action. You inhibit because you have a choice, right? You can either drink an, a beer, or you can drink water, or you can turn on the TV, or you can turn on music. So you have many options. But the first thing you do, the first time you choose to drink a beer, you inhibit other thoughts. Other, say this is the pyramidal nerve in the cortex. This one will be the one to trigger the turn on TV, uh, turn on music, reading a book, and this one is drinking a beer, right? This movement, this pyramidal will trigger the movement to open the refrigerator, get beer, drink beer. This is the first pattern you generate. And this one will get formed. If you do it twice, these circuits will become reinforced. These circuits will be stronger. And that will make you to do it again because this is a circuit stronger than the other option. And so you will, the more you do it, the pattern will be reinforced more. And then these circuits become a routine. Even though the first time everyone has the equal chance. You can drink beer, you can turn on TV, turn on music, read a book. They have equal. This screen could be one of it. But because you turn on this one, this will be reinforced. The next one is easier to go this route, even though that level is not that significant different yet. It's not very different yet, but it will be advantage. It will have the advantage to be done again. And then the more you do it, this will get stronger. The other will get inhibit more. And then the more you do it, this pattern will be formed. And then in the end of the day, this becomes the pattern unless you move into a new room. You build another behavior, and then you have new start, refresh start. So that's that. So that's this action selection idea. So that gave us the general concept about the basal ganglia. Basal ganglia is a thought channeling. It's a thought process. It's not the process. Not really a thinking process. This is the subconscious behavior choice process. So we have anytime we can have any thoughts, and of course we are thinking all the time, right? But while we are thinking, we focus on our thinking. While we are thinking, focus on our thinking, we don't want to waste our thinking in a routine thing. We want to leave it to the basal ganglia to take care of it. So meaning that we do it but we don't think about it. And that's the reason. It's because we want to save our energy on something more important, something more interesting. So we don't want to waste our time on it. We do it once, twice, and then it becomes a routine. So that's the basically a channeling the information from various regions in the cortex. They filter through, some get blocked, some get through. But how do you decide which one get blocked, which one get through? It basically is formed by yourself. You are the one decide. In the first time, it's all neutral. Everyone have equal chance. But the more you do it, that will be reinforced. And so basically, it's and it can be viewed as like this diagram. Cerebral cortex has different thoughts. It's very common, like kids going to the classroom. They can run around. They can do everything differently. But by training it, they will know that sitting is the one to do. Then it will do it. The teacher will guide the students to sit, and that pathway will be reinforced over and over, and then the students become a routine. It's become a robust. They go to a classroom, they sit, and you will be amazed that even though you probably don't pay attention on it, you probably go into the classroom or to the restaurant. There are so many seats, and the first you will choose. But if you went there 10 times, you probably don't even think you will sit on the same seat, because seat, that seat become reinforced many, many times, and it become a routine. And even though you thought you are thinking, but you actually not thinking, you basically be driven by what? Driven by the basal ganglia. Basal ganglia choose it for you. So that's that. So the function of basal ganglia can be viewed in this different area. So it's an action selection. This could be, in the beginning, is a conscious selection, but it gradually becomes subconscious, that you know you are doing it, but you do it as a routine. It's forming a procedure memory, meaning that, for example, if you are a manufacturer worker, you need to package. And the first time you pack it, you need to memorize it. But the more you do it, it becomes a visual cue. Things come, pat, pat, down. Things down, pat, pat, down. This can be very useful for your PT maneuver, right? You see a patient and you pat, pat, down, pat, pat, down. But this could be a trap, because different patient could be different. You sometimes need to work to jump away that routine behavior, because routine behavior could become a bias, that not everyone is the same, not every case is the same. So you need to, a professional one is to train you not to do just a routine thing. A professional person is to be able to jump away and really think about your patient, and to think what's really need to be done. This one can be also a habit learning. Habit is not nature, the old. This has to be learned. Learning is to do it many, many times, and then it become a habit. Good thing is that they are good habits, and the bad thing is that there are bad habits. And a lot of time we didn't think, but we become a slave of that bad habit. And it is also part of the reward circuit and the addiction, that we do things over and over again and become an addiction. If this behavior trigger a reward circuit, then it will be enhanced, that we will be driven to do it. And how do you break that addiction? And very important is to learn, we learn that these circuits receive signal from a lot of region in the cortex. So addiction is not just a reward, it's also very important to relate it to the sensory cue. So if you don't have that sensory cue, it will be very easy to cut it. So say you have a bad habit, you need to think that what kind of behavior, what kind of environment, not the behavior, the environment, to provide you that sensory cue. And a lot of time is the people you hang out with. A lot of time is the room, the smell, the stress, right? And then that triggers it. Yeah. So I like to, one example is that you go to a restaurant, right? And you can have many choice. You can have many menu. It's very exciting the first time you go there, because you do choose. But the more you go there, it will be very easy to become routine. You will do the same thing over and over. And that routine is because of the basal ganglia. Part of that is basal ganglia. Of course, it could be the taste, right? You just don't like that. The other food, you know this is the best. So another example that I like to make the joke about myself is that uh, I drive, right? I live here is the Loma Linda, and this is the school, and this is the Barton, right? And the Barton, you will go Barton, and then you will go into the highway. And one day I drive this road many times. Not this at this season because of the COVID. I basically stay home all the time. But I used to drive this road right many times, right? Going to the highway. That's how I drive. And so I in the first time I drive, I will pay attention on the sign on the road. But the more you drive, you don't really pay attention. You just keep driving, and you know that you will go to the highway, right? There was one time that we are going to the superstation. I am so sorry to know that superstation all closed. This used to be our favorite superstation right here. So the I should drive this way and make a right turn on the this is the Hunter, right? Hunt Hunt's land, right? Hunt. I need to make a right turn here, but because this I drive this road so many times, this become a routine. And so I basically had to go back and forth. And in the end, I really give it up because I miss these roads every time. And so that's just an example. That's this routine behavior. Because when I drive, all this visual cue will force is a lazy excuse. They don't force you. You just because you don't pay attention, right? If you don't pay attention, you are driven by the basal ganglia, and you will keep driving to this way. So that's the basal ganglia. Action selection. You can have many action to select, but basal ganglia select it for you. All right. So that's that. Now I want to. Now we know basal ganglia, right? We know all this. Now I want to give you the another thing is very important is the effects of the dopamine. Why is that important? It's uh, because that dopamine uh, dopaminergic degeneration is involved in the Parkinson disease. So that's why we need to talk about the dopamine. All right, so the dopamine are released from the substantia nigra, pars compta, and their nerve innervate into the striatum. When they nerve innervate into the striatum, they release dopamine. There are two type of receptor, D1 and the D2. So it's not complicated. It's very easy. All right. D1 is the excitatory receptor. So when the substantia nigra release dopamine, it will excite. The D1 is located in the direct pathway. The D2 is located in the indirect pathway. So the dopamine, when they release their dopamine in the striatum, they will both act on D1 and D2 because they are diffused around. And whenever the C receptor binds on it, they will bind on D1 and D2. Binds on D1 will excite the direct pathway. Binds on D2 will inhibit the indirect pathway. And we already know that the direct pathway is an excitatory pathway. And so the dopamine exon D1 will make that excitatory pathway to be even more excitatory. They excite it. When they act on the D2, D2 is an inhibitory receptor, and the indirect pathway is an inhibitory pathway. So dopamine will inhibit this inhibitory pathway, and again will make it less inhibit. So the overall idea about the dopamine is to make everything more free. There will be less inhibition. The one you already doing, you will be doing even more. The one you are have a concern you don't do, you are trained not to do, you become less concerned. You will do it. So dopamine is one to kind of like free your thoughts to make you be more agile, doing things depending on the condition, depending on the situation. You are not bounded by this basal ganglia. So that's a function of dopamine. So the direct pathway excites cortex to perform the movement, and the dopamine enhance it. The indirect inhibits the motor cortex neuron. The dopamine make it less inhibited. So very much like if we have thoughts, and through the direct pathway is like burning the wood. You keep burning. It's get excited. Dopamine is like adding more gasoline to it to make it even more firing. The indirect pathway is like you put the latch on your puppy so they won't behave, they won't run around. The dopamine is like cut it, and so you start to have this puppy running around. So that's the effects of the dopamine in the direct pathway and the indirect pathway. So that's that. So you basically kind of free away from the basal ganglia. So that's that. And so this one some provide you some disease related to the basal ganglia. So all these are motor and the behavior related disorder. Uh, basal ganglia is important of the motivation, initiation. All these thoughts need to go through, get the approval from the direct pathway and the indirect pathway, basal ganglia. So that initiation will be impaired if the basal ganglia is always say no. Behavior movement is also uh, wired in the basal ganglia. Disorders including the addiction, that the wiring become very strong, that you are driven to do it, even though you know that you shouldn't do it, but you are driven to do it. You know that you go to the room, you should not drink the alcohol. You should not even put the alcohol in your room, right? But you become behavior. You go to the Walmart, the first thing you do is get a beer, right? So that become a behavior, become addiction. This could be also the attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD, is also part of the effects from the basal ganglia, because this cue becomes so strong that you cannot focus on the thing that you are focusing on. Obsessive compulsive disorder, that's also the cue driven you to do it. When you see your nail, you bite on it. That you cannot stop. You want to stop, but that visual cue is just so strong. You become behavior. And among all of this is the most devastating one, because this will lead to the death, right? Parkinson's disease is the pathological disease that's not just the wiring mess up, but it's the degeneration, the neuronal death. The neuronal death in the Parkinson's disease is the dopaminergic neuron in the substantia nigra pars compta. So that's the Parkinson's disease. This was originally categorized by Dr. Parkinson in 1817, and the patient has the movement disorder. The cause of this disease is the neurodegeneration in the dopaminergic neuron in the substantia nigra. And because of that, we already know the function, the effects of the dopamine is to free up your thoughts. Now, without dopamine, it will be opposite. Your thought will be strained very badly. So the typical pattern of the Parkinson disease patient is that they have difficulty to initiate a movement. So when they see you, they don't know how to respond. They know how to respond, but they can't respond. They know they need to smile. They need to move their face. They need to change their facial expression, but they don't because that every thought is kind of inhibited by basal ganglia. There's lack of dopamine. Direct pathway is discouraged. The indirect pathway is enhanced. So all thoughts are inhibited by the basal ganglia. You are the person, even though they know they need to do it, but they can't do it. I have a neighbor, used to have a neighbor who has Parkinson's disease. And every time he come home, and of course not him driving, but his family member drove him, and so they will park on the street and they will walk to their house. But these patients would stand there. He would not make a move, even though he looks very, of course he doesn't look normal, but he knows that he need to go home, but he just cannot initiate. Every step is blocked. Every step is frozen. And only when people push him can provide that initiation, that motivation, then he will start to move. So that's the Parkinson disease. The Parkinson disease, the cause is the pathology is the degeneration in the dopaminergic neuron in substantia nigra, and the cause could be complicated, but one known related cause is the accumulation of a protein in this neuron. This protein is called the alpha-synuclein. Alpha-synuclein is a protein they start to aggregate in the neuron, and when they aggregate in the neuron, they form this pocket. It's called the Lewy body in the neuron. So it's Lewy body neuron, and that will gradually kill the neuron. So you need to know that this Parkinson's disease is a damage to the substantia nigra dopaminergic neuron. And you also need to know the pathological relationship uh, uh, related to this accumulation of the alpha-synuclein, and this accumulation form this Lewy body. So that's that. The alpha-synuclein is the protein that everybody has, but it has its normal function in nerve signal conduction to work on with the synaptic processes. But if it's not uh, metabolized away by our neurons, they aggregate, then it will become a problem. Small oligomer, this small molecule appear to be the most toxic to the neuron. So that's that. And the symptom of the Parkinson disease are related to the motion. So you will have a resting tremor that basically when you rest and you supposed to have no movement, but those movements start to show the resting tremor. And I show you the video here. You can see, you can take a look at that. If the patient is moving, that tremor disappear. But this tremor thing is initial, like initial state. So patient still can move. But a later state, patient will start to have difficulty to initiate a moving. Rigid in most muscle, skeletal muscle, difficult to initiate the movement. Unable to initiate movement. Also in the tremor, it's called pure rolling tremor. You can look at the video here to show you what it looks like. So that's that. Parkinson's disease, the typical treatment is to provide the dopamine, but the direct dopamine, even you can buy dopamine from Walmart, from the Costco, but those dopamine cannot go into the brain because dopamine cannot pass through the blood-brain barrier. So the drug that can be used to treat, it won't cure because this will not cause, not stop this degeneration process, but it will provide the dopamine that brains need while the neurons still dying at this point that we still can provide the dopamine the brain needs. And hopefully one day we can find a cure to stop the dying of the neuron. So the drug is the L-dopa. This is the precursor of the dopamine. And when they enter into the brain, they can enter into the brain. This L-dopa, they will be converted into the dopamine. And so that can be very useful to treat the symptom of the Parkinson disease. So that's that. The next one is the cortex. So, so the cortical function, cortex, the motor cortex. So the motor cortex is one to integrate all this movement. The motor cortex include the primary motor cortex. So this is the brain cortex, central sulcus. This part is the sensory. This part is the motor. And this is the central sulcus, the primary. We also have the premotor area, and also the supplementary motor area. So there are three areas in the cortex to conduct this motor function. And the cortical motor function, we need to know that the way the motor cortex is working is that the major time, the most of time, the motor cortical function is that the way we know it is to provide electro stimulation and to see how the patient move, right? People move. And we know is that when you stimulate one motor area, what you get is a sequence of the movement. So it gives the idea that the cortical region is one to say, for example, drinking water, right? And then you go drink water, right? You go drink water. So that's the motor cortex. So the motor cortex is the one to activate this wiring, this program stored in different region in our other motor area. So for example, in the spinal cord, we have these different reflexes. The one we talk about is the stretch reflex. We only mentioned about this simple one, but you know that there are different reflexes. You can walk, that's the locomotion. So say locomotion, your motor cortex will just send out one signal, say activate locomotion, and then the spinal cord will start to walk. So that's the function of the motor cortex. So given that, you know, we need to have an idea that all different lower motor area, like we mentioned here, each one of these will store a small program like an app. We just hit on it and the app will do the work. So each one of these will have stored circuits to complete a movement. What cortex doing is just to turn it on. So that's the function of the cortex. In addition to that, cortex also able to provide a direct control of each motor neuron. So this will be seen more common in those fine movement from our hands, fine movement that can be directly controlled by the cortex. Otherwise, a lot of this movement we are doing is the training and the storing of that program in the different lower motor area. So that's that. All right. So that's this one here, and the three motor cortical region. In the primary motor cortex, you can see that this is the different cortical region. They basically control different motor, skeletal motor region, and the larger the area it is, basically it control more complicated movement in those area. So this is called the topographic map organization of this motor control. When we excite a single motor neuron in this region, we typically get a specific movement. So that specific movement is not programmed here, but programmed in the lower motor area rather than one specific muscle. We do have stimulation to one specific muscle, but this is more like hand. Hand can have direct motor control. Otherwise, when we stimulate one region, we just say a word or sing a song or drinking water or walking, something like that. So this primary, and then we also have the premotor. Premotor area is right here, premotor, this region. So this is the right next to the primary and lateral to the Sylvian future, and but not reaching to the longitudinal feature. So that's the premotor area. This premotor area is very similar like the primary motor area. This premotor area provide more complex patterns stored in the local area. And another function of this premotor area. Premotor area has the same topological organization like the primary motor cortex. So different region will process different part of the muscle, but the function involve more complicated movement. This premotor area also is one to form a motor imaging, called the motor imaging. Basically, that whenever you are planning to do, you kind of get a visual planning imaging in the brain, and that is in the premotor area. In certain area involve different part of the muscle, and then that get processed through the basal ganglia, for example, and then sent back to the primary cortex. So that's the premotor area. In this premotor area, we also find a very unique neuron. It's called the mirror neuron. So the mirror neurons are a group of neurons. Even though we call it a group of neuron, initially we found it in the premotor area, and that plays a role related to the motor imaging, right? And but later we found that not just in the premotor, this could be also located in the sensory cortical region. So this is the region that not just you close your eye. So in the premotor, we have this motor imaging. It's like you plan to do things before you do it. You have the planning, you have that motor image. But this mirror neuron is driven by what you see. So it's involving the sensory and the motor. And basically that if you see an action resonate with you, meaning that you have some experience before. And by looking at it, you feel that you do it, okay? So that's, for example, a very typical one is the uh, people like to watch the sports, right? And why is that? Because when you watch a sport, you feel like you are playing it. This is particularly very interesting to me. It's because I was from Taiwan, right? And that's kind of like my first culture shock is like when I was the first time came to America, and your friends will ask you, do you like sports, right? That's very typical of that conversation. And yeah, I liked sports. And so in back in Taiwan, when people ask that, do you like sports? It means that, do you want to play with us? Do you want to, let's hang out, let's hang out to go to the court to play it. You like basketball? Let's go to the field to play it. You like, I used to like ping pong. Let's go there to play it. I like baseball as well. As I mentioned in the cerebellum, let's go there to play it. So that's the time when I was in Taiwan. That's how the impression I got, that if the people ask you about the sports, the next is to, let's go play it. But here it's different, because that's, do you like sports? Meaning that, come to my house, let's watch it. So that's the first, like, kind of like, I learned it. I realized that, okay, you ask me about the sport, meaning that let's hang out and watch it together. So but that's basically explain why do we do it, because here we have the mirror neuron that you don't really need to do it. You can just watch it and you feel that you do it. When you watch it, and all these very beautiful actions in the game, you have that excited. You have the mirror neuron get excited. And then by exciting this mirror neuron, you don't need to do it, but you feel like you already do it. You don't need to go to the field. You don't need to be sweating, and you still play again, right? So why not doing it? So that's uh, that's very interesting. Yeah. So that is the mirror neuron. Mirror neuron also, for example, when people smiling to you, you smiling back, right? So that is the part of that is the mirror neuron, that the difference between the mirror neuron and the motor imaging is, motor image doesn't relate it to the sensory, but the mirror neuron related to the sensory is the sensory to simulate a movement, but you don't need to do that movement. But you do, if you have that, you basically do it. You see it, you smile back. So the mirror neurons are important design in our brain, that we can have a mental stimulation of this movement. But you have to have the resonation to it, meaning that you need to have some experience before. Otherwise, for example, say you like to watch the sport, maybe your friends like to watch dancing. If you don't dance, if you don't have that, you probably won't have interest in watching it. So that's because you don't have that experience before. So having the experience before is important to build the mirror neuron to respond to the action that you see. So this is activity is experience dependent, and that provide an anticipation that every moment, because you have the experience, you kind of know that's what's the next step. And you also can be sensitive to the goal related to the motor action. So basically that if you have the experience of uh, the pouring coffee into the cup, right? You have that experience. When people do it, you immediately know the next step is the put the cup under it. If you see someone pouring a coffee but forget about the cup, if you see that, you will immediately provide a cup because you know that's the next step, next up. Yeah. Also provide a sympathy because you have the experience, and when you see it, it's very much like watching a movie. So watching a movie help you to experience it again. So that's the mirror neuron. And in the premotor area. And another region is the supplementary motor area. So supplementary motor area is also anterior to the primary. And this region is more located in the longitudinal fissure. This region folded over here. So as you can see here. And that's the supplementary motor area. So it's mainly in the longitudinal fissure, a little bit extend into the frontal cortex, but not entirely down into the uh, Sylvian feature right here. So basically only under this top area here. What's the function of this supplementary? This supplementary is to support. So this one basically provides some bilateral rudimentary sorry, some bilateral and rudimentary movements that serve as a background. So basically that you have all this movement, but some movement is like background. Like you have the profile, you have the plan, you want to do things, but some detail will be conducted by the premotor and the primary motor, but that background, say, will be conducted by, and this will involve more like bilateral part located in the longitudinal feature. So that will be more collectively connect between two hemisphere. And for example, is the using your hands in climbing, and so that is the provided by the supplementary motor area. So that's three region, and we also have some specialized area for motor control. Um, here we will talk about this area, this area, uh, hand skills, head rotation, contralateral eye movement, the broadcast area, and the choice of words, the eye fiction. So we will look into this one here.